Hey, Bonavista Baptist kids and friends checking in for this kids moment in our worship service. It's Kira and Pastor Scott, and Steve the plant is back with us for this session. Well, we've got a really interesting story to tell you about today, but before we get to the story, Kira, what is this?
Well, it's a speaker, but it has many different functions. It can play music if you connect your phone. It can tune into the radio. As well as if it's plugged in, it can tell time. But one of the most helpful functions is it's also an alarm clock.
It's an alarm clock. Now, we don't have this at home anymore. It kind of hangs out in my office. But when I did have it at home, there was a special feature of the alarm clock that I really, really liked. And it has to do with one of these buttons on the top. Can you guess which one?
Was it the snooze button?
It was absolutely the snooze button. There's a big button on the top that you can reach easily when you're a little bit groggy in the morning, just waking up, and the alarm's blaring at you, telling you to get out of bed, and you're not quite ready to get out of bed, so what do? Reach over and hit the snooze button. Here's the problem though. The snooze button gives you another 8 minutes to lie in bed and close your eyes, and then the alarm goes off again. And sometimes, what do I do when that happens?
You hit it again.
I hit the snooze button again and again. And sometimes if you hit the snooze button too many times, your brain no longer hears the alarm clock and you sleep in. You see, the alarm clock is meant to wake you up and get you moving into action. And the snooze button can be the biggest enemy because you end up not hearing the alarm clock anymore. Well, what does that have to do with our story today? Well, the story today has to do with two men. One man was a very, very rich man. He had tons and tons of money. But just outside the rich man's door was another man, and his name was Lazarus. And Lazarus was a very poor man. In fact, he had sores all over his body, and he had to beg for his food and his money every single day. And while they were alive, the rich man would come out of his house every day and not pay attention at all to the poor man that was right on his doorstep. Well, guess what happened? Both men died. And Lazarus actually went to heaven. And the rich man didn't go to heaven. But in the story that Jesus tells, the rich man is able to actually see Lazarus. And now he's paying attention to Lazarus. Now he's saying, Lazarus, come and help me. Lazarus, go warn my brothers. Lazarus, do this. Suddenly he's very, very interested in Lazarus. But it's too late. Well, I hope you read the story together. But part of the moral of the story is that sometimes God sends us people in our lives or situations that are meant to wake us up, meant to make us pay attention. And sometimes if we ignore them, we stop hearing God's voice. We stop hearing God's call to action. So we need to pay attention when God wants to wake us up. Well, where can they find this whole story to read today?
Luke chapter 16, verses 19 to 31.
And it's an interesting story. Read it with your parents, and then you can download all the activity sheets and answer some of the questions after. So thanks for joining with us today. I hope you enjoy the story. And for Steve and Kira and Pastor Scott, we're saying, see you next week.